The smell hit me first. Stale beer mixed with something that might have been day-old pizza. I stood in the doorway of our apartment, keys still in my hand, staring at the scene before me. Empty bottles littered the coffee table, and there was Dominic, my fiancé of 8 months, passed out on our cream-colored couch with his mouth hanging open. It was 2 a.m. on a Saturday. He told me he was having a quiet night with the guys while I was at my sister's bachelorette party. Clearly, our definitions of quiet differed significantly. I set down my overnight bag and started collecting the bottles, trying not to wake him. 5 years we'd been together. 5 years of building something I thought was solid, something real. The engagement ring on my finger caught the light from the kitchen as I moved, sending little rainbows across the walls. 3 months until our wedding. 3 months until I became Mrs. Dominic Chen. That's when I heard it, his phone buzzing on the floor. I wasn't the type to check his messages, never had been. But something about finding him like this, something about the way the apartment felt different, made me pause. The screen lit up with a text from Paul, his best friend since college. Bro, you were hilarious tonight. That thing you said about Amelia, dead. But seriously, if you're having doubts, better to know now than after the wedding. My stomach dropped. What thing about me? What doubts? I looked at Dominic, still unconscious, drooling slightly on our throw pillow, the one I'd picked out when we first moved in together 3 years ago. Part of me wanted to wake him up right then, demand answers. But the other part, the part that had loved this man through job losses and family drama and a pandemic, that part won. I covered him with a blanket and went to bed alone. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the coffee maker. Dominic was in the kitchen, looking rough but functional, scrambling eggs like nothing had happened. He smiled when he saw me, that same crooked smile that had made me fall for him during our first date at that terrible sushi place near campus. "Morning, beautiful," he said, sliding a plate toward me. "Sorry about the mess last night. Things got a little out of hand." I took a bite of eggs, choosing my words carefully. "Paul texted you. Something about you being hilarious, about something you said about me?" The spatula stopped moving. His back was to me, but I saw his shoulders tense. "Oh, that was nothing. Just guy talk." "What kind of guy talk?" He turned around, leaning against the counter. "Honestly, I don't even remember. We were pretty drunk." But his eyes wouldn't meet mine. In 5 years, I'd learned to read Dominic like a book, and right now, that book was lying to me. The next few days felt like walking through quicksand. Dominic acted normal. Overly normal, actually. He brought me flowers on Monday, made dinner on Tuesday, suggested we look at wedding venues again on Wednesday. But there was something underneath it all, like a song playing slightly off-key. Thursday evening, I was at my friend Rachel's apartment. We were supposed to be addressing wedding invitations, but I couldn't focus. The calligraphy pen shook in my hand as I tried to write Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Chen for the return address. "Okay, spill," Rachel said, pushing the invitations aside. "You've been weird all week." I told her about Saturday night, about the text, about the feeling in my gut that wouldn't go away. She listened, her face growing more concerned with each detail. "Maybe you should talk to Paul," she suggested, "or one of the other guys who was there. I can't go behind Dominic's back like that." "Honey, something's clearly wrong. Don't you want to know before you walk down that aisle?" That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation Dominic and I had had about the wedding. He'd been the one to propose, down on one knee at our favorite hiking spot. He'd been excited about the planning at first, but thinking back, when had that changed? When had his enthusiasm turned into something else? Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Sandra, Dominic's mom. We'd always had a good relationship, treated me like the daughter she never had, especially since Dominic's sister lived across the country. "Amelia, sweetheart," she said, and immediately I knew something was wrong. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. "I need to talk to you about something. Can you come over? Is everything okay? Is it Dominic's dad?" No, everyone's healthy. It's Dominic. It's about Dominic. There's something you need to know." My hands were shaking as I drove to their house in the suburbs. Sandra met me at the door, her usually perfect makeup smudged around the eyes. She led me to the kitchen, the same kitchen where Dominic and I had announced our engagement 8 months ago. "I overheard something," she began, wrapping her hands around a mug of tea. "Tom was on the phone with Dominic yesterday. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but Amelia, Dominic told his father he's not sure about the marriage." The words hit me like physical blows. Not sure. About the marriage. About me. About us. Did he say why? My voice sounded strange, detached, like it belonged to someone else. Sandra reached across the table and took my hand. Something about feeling rushed, about not being ready. Tom tried to talk sense into him, but she squeezed my fingers. "Honey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know if I should tell you, but you deserve to know. You're too good for secrets." I drove home in a daze. Dominic wouldn't be back from work for another 2 hours. I sat in our apartment, surrounded by wedding magazines and RSVPs and the life we were supposed to be building together, and I waited. When Dominic walked through the door at 6:47 p.m., I was sitting on the couch, still in the same spot I'd been for the last hour. He saw my face and stopped mid-step. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting down his laptop bag slowly. "Your mom called me today." The color drained from his face. He knew exactly what this was about. No confusion, no questions. just immediate understanding and guilt written across every feature. Amelia, I can explain. You told your dad you're not sure about marrying me. It wasn't a question. He sat down across from me, not beside me like he normally would. The coffee table between us felt like an ocean. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. Do you want to marry me or not? He ran his hands through his hair, that nervous habit I used to find endearing. I love you, Amelia. You know I do. That's not what I asked. Sometimes I wonder if we're doing this for the right reasons. We've been together so long and everyone expects it, and your sister's getting married and my parents keep asking about grandkids and… Stop, I held up my hand. Are you saying you proposed to me because of pressure? Because of expectations? No, I proposed because I love you. But now that it's getting real, now that we're actually planning this thing, I don't know. Don't you ever wonder if we're too young? If we should see more of the world first? If we should date other people? The words came out sharper than intended. His silence was answer enough. What did you say about me on Saturday night? I asked. Paul mentioned you said something about me. What was it? Dominic's jaw clenched. It was stupid. We were drunk. Tell me. He looked at the ceiling, then back at me. Paul was joking around, saying stuff about marriage, about how guys settle down and lose their edge. And I made a joke. What joke, Dominic? I said. God, this sounds so bad. I said, if you were prettier, I'd marry you tomorrow. The words hung in the air between us. If you were prettier, 5 years together, and that's what he tells his friends when I'm not around, that I'm not pretty enough to marry without hesitation. It was a joke, he said quickly. A stupid, drunk joke. I didn't mean it. Jokes are supposed to be funny, I said, standing up. My legs felt wobbly. I need some air. Amelia, please. But I was already grabbing my keys, already heading for the door. I heard him calling after me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't, because if I stopped, I might fall apart completely, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I ended up at the beach, sitting on the hood of my car, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. My phone buzzed constantly, texts and calls from Dominic. I ignored them all. Instead, I called the one person who would understand. Julia, I said when Dominic's sister picked up. It's Amelia. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Julia's pause told me everything before she even spoke. You know about his doubts. I know enough, but I feel like there's more. Something everyone's dancing around but not saying. She sighed. It was 9 p.m. in New York where she lived, and I could hear the city noise in the background. Can I ask you something first? Have you met his new coworker, Maria? Maria. The name hit me like ice water. The project manager who started 6 months ago? We met at the company Christmas party. Why? Amelia. Julia's voice was gentle but firm. You're like a sister to me. You've been part of our family for 5 years. So I'm going to tell you what Dominic won't. He's been spending a lot of time with Maria. Late nights at the office, lunch meetings, texting constantly. My mind raced back through the last few months. The late nights I'd attributed to a big project deadline. The new inside jokes from work he'd reference. The way he'd been protective of his phone lately. Are they? I couldn't finish the sentence. I don't know if anything physical has happened, but emotional infidelity is still infidelity, Amelia. And from what I've heard from Mom, from what she's accidentally seen on Dad's phone from Dominic, it's not appropriate. I sat on that beach until the stars came out, processing everything. When I finally drove home at midnight, Dominic was asleep on the couch, clearly having waited up for me. I stood there looking at him, at this man I'd planned to spend my life with, and I didn't recognize him anymore. The next morning was Saturday. I woke early and did something I'd never done before. I went through his phone. He'd fallen asleep with it unlocked, and there it was, like a gift from the universe or a curse, depending on how you looked at it. The messages with Maria were right there, hundreds of them. Nothing explicitly sexual, but intimate in a way that made my chest tight. You get me in a way she doesn't. One message from Dominic read. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd met 5 years ago, Maria had replied. Don't wonder that. It's dangerous, he'd written back, followed by a winking emoji. I screenshotted everything and sent it to myself. Then I did something else. I called Paul. Amelia? He sounded surprised and guilty. Hey, about last weekend. I need you to be honest with me, Paul. You've known Dominic for 10 years. What's really going on? The pause was long. You should talk to Dominic. I'm talking to you. Please. I'm supposed to marry him in 3 months. Paul sighed. Look, he's confused. This thing with Maria, it's messed with his head. He keeps saying nothing's happened, but the way he talks about her versus how he talks about you. I told him he needs to figure his shit out before the wedding. And what does he say? He says he loves you. He says you're perfect. That you're wife material. That any guy would be lucky to have you. But he also says Maria makes him feel alive, like he's 22 again, like anything's possible. Paul's voice got quieter. I'm sorry, Amelia. You deserve better than this. After I hung up, I made breakfast. Eggs, just like Dominic had done a week ago when this all started. When he woke up and saw me cooking, his face lit up with hope. Morning, he said carefully. I slid his plate across the counter. We need to talk about Maria. The way Dominic's fork stopped midway to his mouth told me everything. He set it down slowly. The eggs forgotten. How did you… Does it matter? I sat across from him at our small dining table, the one we'd bought at a flea market our first year living together. What matters is that you've been emotionally investing in another woman while planning a wedding with me. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Explain it to me, because I've seen the messages. You get me in a way she doesn't? Really? He pushed his plate away. Maria and I are just friends. We work together, we have similar interests. Similar interests you apparently don't share with me after 5 years? That's not fair. You know what's not fair? I could feel my voice rising. Planning a wedding with someone who's fantasizing about what life would be like with another woman. That's not fair. Dominic stood up, pacing to the window. I never cheated on you. There are different kinds of cheating, Dominic. I know. His voice was quiet now. I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. Maria just... She appeared at a time when everything felt so heavy. The wedding planning, the pressure, the future all mapped out. And she was this breath of fresh air, this reminder that life could still surprise me. And I'm what? Stale air? The boring, predictable future? He turned to face me. Your safety. Your home. You're everything I'm supposed to want. Supposed to want, I repeated, but not what you actually want. I don't know what I want. The admission burst out of him. That's the problem. I look at you and I see this perfect life. The house, the kids, the family dinners. And then I look at Maria and I see adventure, possibility, the road not taken. You can't have both. I know that too. We stood there, the space between us feeling infinite. 5 years, and it had come to this common app. Me being the safe choice, the fallback, the wife material, as Paul had said, while another woman got to be the excitement. My phone rang, breaking the tension. It was Sandra. Amelia, dear, I wanted to confirm you're both still coming to dinner tomorrow. Tom's grilling and Julie's flying in from New York. I looked at Dominic. Actually, Sandra, about that. We'll be there, Mom, Dominic cut in, taking the phone from me. 6 o'clock, right? After he hung up, I stared at him. Seriously, we're going to pretend everything's fine at family dinner? It's Julia's first visit in 6 months. We can't ruin it. I'm not the one having an emotional affair. Please, Amelia, one dinner. We can figure everything out after. I agreed, but only because I loved his family. They didn't deserve to have their reunion ruined by our drama. But as I got ready for bed that night, sleeping on the couch because I couldn't bear to lie next to him, I made a decision. After tomorrow's dinner, things were going to change. The next evening, as we drove to his parents' house, the silence was deafening. I wore the blue dress Sandra had complimented last time, trying to look normal, trying to look like someone whose world wasn't falling apart. Julia met us at the door, enveloping me in a huge hug. Amelia, God, I've missed you. Then quieter, just for me. You okay? I squeezed her hand. She knew. Of course she knew. Dinner was torture disguised as normalcy. Tom grilled steaks while making dad jokes. Sandra bustled around, making sure everyone had enough of everything, and Julia filled us in on her life in New York. Dominic and I played our parts, the happy engaged couple, sitting side by side, passing dishes, smiling at all the right moments. So, Tom said, raising his beer, 3 months until the big day. You kids must be getting excited. I felt Dominic tense beside me. Yeah, Dad. Really excited. Have you finalized the venue? Sandra asked. The garden club is still available if you change your mind about the beach. The beach is perfect, I said, twisting my engagement ring under the table. Always dreamed of a beach wedding. It's where they had their first kiss, Julia added, smiling at me. Remember? You told me that story after that bonfire party junior year? I remembered. God, I remembered everything. Every first, every milestone, every moment that had led us here. How did 5 years of memories become so painful so fast? That was a good night, Dominic said softly, and for a moment, his hand found mine under the table. I let him hold it for exactly 3 seconds before pulling away. So, Julia, I said, desperate to change the subject, tell us about that promotion you mentioned. As Julia launched into her story, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally I'd ignore it, but something made me excuse myself to the bathroom to check. Hi, Amelia. This is Maria. I know this is inappropriate, but we need to talk. Can we meet tomorrow? There are things about Dominic you should know. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. The other woman wanted to meet. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend I'd never seen it. But the other part, the part that had always valued truth over comfort, was already typing back. Tonio's coffee, 10 a.m. When I returned to the table, Julia was in the middle of a story about her terrible roommate. I tried to focus, tried to laugh at the right parts, but my mind was spinning. What could Maria possibly have to tell me that I didn't already know? Amelia's been quiet tonight, Sandra observed as she served dessert. Homemade apple pie, my favorite. Wedding planning wearing you out, dear? Something like that, I managed. You know, Julia said, her eyes on her brother. Planning a wedding is supposed to be joyful. If it's not, maybe that's a sign to slow down. Julia, Tom warned. What? I'm just saying. There's no rush. They're young. They've been together 5 years, Sandra countered. If you're not sure after 5 years, when will you be? The question hung in the air. Dominic pushed pie around his plate. I took a bite I couldn't taste. Actually, I heard myself say, Dominic's not sure. The table went silent. Every eye turned to me, then to him. Amelia, Dominic said, his voice low, warning. What? I set down my fork. It's true. You told your dad you're not sure. You told me you don't know what you want. Your family deserves to know that their son is having doubts about marrying me. Is this true? Sandra asked, her voice small. Dominic looked around the table at his family's faces, his father's disappointment, his mother's shock, his sister's knowing sadness. Yes, he said finally. It's true. The drive home from that dinner was silent. Not the comfortable silence of 5 years together, but the sharp-edged silence of everything falling apart. When we got to the apartment, Dominic went straight to the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, a suitcase zipper. What are you doing? I stood in the doorway. I think I should stay with Paul for a few days. Give us both some space to think. Now you want space? 3 months before our wedding? He paused, a half-folded shirt in his hands. Would you rather I go through with it feeling this way? I'd rather you had figured out what you wanted before you proposed, before we put deposits down, before we sent invitations to 150 people. I know. I'm sorry. Stop saying that. Sorry doesn't fix this. He zipped the suitcase closed. What do you want me to say, Amelia? That I'm an asshole? Fine, I'm an asshole. I'm confused and scared and I don't know if I'm ready for forever. Is that what you want to hear? I want to hear the truth. All of it. Is there something going on with Maria? He met my eyes. No, not physically. But you want there to be. His silence was confirmation enough. After he left, I sat in our apartment, my apartment now. It felt like surrounded by the detritus of our shared life. The couch we'd picked out together, the art we'd collected from various trips, the engagement photos on the bookshelf, both of us smiling like we knew what forever meant. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made lists, things to cancel if the wedding didn't happen, people to notify, decisions to make. It was easier to be practical than to feel the full weight of what was happening. At 9:45 the next morning, I sat in my car outside Tonio's Coffee, watching the door. Maria arrived 5 minutes early, and I recognized her immediately. Tall, dark-haired, the kind of effortless beauty that made other women feel like they were trying too hard. She looked nervous, checking her phone repeatedly. I walked in at exactly 10. Amelia, she stood when she saw me. Thank you for coming. We ordered latte for me, black coffee for her, and found a corner table. I know you must hate me, she started. I don't know you well enough to hate you. She nodded. Fair. Look, I asked you here because I've been where you are. The fiancé who gets distant, starts working late, becomes someone you don't recognize. You've been engaged? 3 years ago. He left me 2 months before the wedding for a coworker. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, right? Now I'm the coworker. Are you the coworker he's leaving me for? Maria pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then slid it across to me. This is from Friday night. It was a text thread with Dominic. In it, he was asking her to meet him for drinks, alone, to talk about us. He'd written. I didn't go, Maria said quickly. That's when I knew I needed to talk to you. Because Dominic's a good guy who's about to make a terrible mistake, and you seem like a good person who doesn't deserve this. If he's such a good guy, why are you showing me this? She took her phone back, because good guys can still be cowards. And Dominic, he's too scared to end things with you properly, and too scared to start something with me, so he's just floating. Letting time make the decision for him. Can I ask you something? I said, wrapping my hands around my coffee cup for warmth I couldn't feel. Do you love him? Maria looked surprised. I don't know. I think I could. He's smart and funny, and when he talks about his passions, his whole face lights up. He used to light up like that when he talked about me. He still does, sometimes. That's what makes this so complicated. I don't think he's fallen out of love with you. I think he's terrified of only loving one person for the rest of his life. And you're okay with that? Being the escape route from his fear? She shifted uncomfortably. When you put it like that, no. But it didn't start that way. We were just colleagues, then friends. The feelings snuck up on both of us. When did it change? The company retreat in November. You couldn't come because of your sister's engagement party, remember? We ended up talking until 4 a.m. about everything. Books, travel, dreams we'd given up on. He told me he'd always wanted to live abroad, teach English in Japan for a year. I asked why he didn't, and he said, Amelia's life is here, her family, her job. I couldn't ask her to leave that. I remembered that conversation. 3 years ago, when the opportunity came up, I'd said we could discuss it, but he'd seen my hesitation, my fear of leaving everything I knew. He dropped it, said it was just a pipe dream. I thought we'd moved past it. He never told me he still wanted that, I said quietly. There's a lot he doesn't tell you, I think. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because he's been playing a role for so long, the perfect boyfriend, the perfect fiancé, that he's lost track of who he actually is. And who is he with you? Himself, I guess. Messy and uncertain and full of dreams he's afraid to chase. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop hummed with normal life. People on laptops, friends catching up, a first date in the corner. Normal people living normal lives that weren't imploding. There's something else, Maria said. Paul's been encouraging this. The doubts, the connection between Dominic and me. He keeps telling Dominic that marriage is a trap, that he needs to explore his options. Paul's been divorced twice. Exactly, but Dominic listens to him. They've been friends since college, and Paul has this hold over him. This idea that settling down means giving up, that commitment equals death of the soul or something equally dramatic. My phone buzzed. Dominic, where are you? We need to talk. I should go, I said, standing. Amelia, wait! Maria stood too. I'm going to request a transfer to our Seattle office. Whatever happens between you two, it shouldn't be because of me. But you want to be with him. I want him to be happy. And honestly, I think that might still be with you, if you both can be honest about what you actually want, not what you think you should want. I left the coffee shop more confused than when I'd entered. Maria wasn't the villain I'd expected. She was just another woman caught in the crossfire of Dominic's quarter-life crisis. When I got home, Dominic was there, sitting on the front steps of our building. He looked terrible, unshaven, red-eyed, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Paul kicked me out, he said I needed to stop being a coward and face this. Paul's right about something for once. Can we talk? Really talk? I unlocked the door, and we climbed the stairs to our apartment. Our home. our maybe not future. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, the space between us feeling like a canyon. Dominic looked around the apartment, taking in all the wedding planning materials still scattered on the coffee table. I met with Maria this morning, I said. His head snapped toward me. She called you? She showed me your texts. You asked her to meet you for drinks to talk about us. I didn't mean... Stop. Just stop. No more half-truths, no more protecting my feelings. If we have any chance of figuring this out, I need complete honesty. He nodded, running his hands through his hair. Okay, complete honesty. He took a deep breath. I'm terrified of marrying you. The words hit hard, even though I'd expected them. Not because I don't love you, he continued quickly, but because I do. Because marrying you means this is it. My life is decided. We'll get married, buy a house in the suburbs, have kids, and every day will look like the day before until we die. That's what you think our life would be, isn't it? Your 5-year plan has us with 2 kids and a mortgage by the time we're 32. Plans can change, but you don't want them to. You love plans, Amelia. You love security and stability and knowing what's coming next, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes I can't breathe thinking about it. So Maria's your oxygen? Maria's possibility. She's proof that life can still surprise me. I surprise you, or I used to. Remember when I planned that spontaneous road trip to Portland? Or when I signed us up for those salsa lessons? That was 3 years ago, Amelia. When's the last time we did something unexpected? I wanted to argue, but he was right. Somewhere along the way, we'd stopped being spontaneous. We'd become the couple who had a regular table at our regular restaurant, who spent Saturdays running errands and Sundays meal prepping. You know what the really messed up part is? Dominic said. I hate myself for feeling this way. You're perfect. You're beautiful and smart and kind. You laugh at my terrible jokes and take care of me when I'm sick. Any man would be lucky to have you. But not you? That's just it. I am lucky. I know I am. But I can't shake this feeling that we're together because we've always been together. That we're getting married because it's the next step, not because we can't imagine life any other way. I can't imagine life without you, I said quietly. Can't you? Really? Or is it just that after 5 years, the thought of starting over is too scary? I wanted to protest, to declare my undying love, but something held me back, because buried under all the hurt and anger was a tiny seed of recognition. How many times had I looked at our wedding Pinterest board and felt more stressed than excited? How many times had I wondered if this comfortable love was enough? I don't know, I admitted. I don't know anything anymore. We sat there as the afternoon sun moved across the floor, 2 people who'd shared 5 years, trying to figure out if we had 5 more in us, let alone 50. What do we do now? I asked. I think, Dominic said slowly, we need to postpone the wedding. The words I'd been dreading and expecting in equal measure. Or, I said, surprising myself, we call it off entirely. His eyes widened. Amelia, no, listen. A postponement is just delaying the inevitable. Either we want to be together or we don't. Either we're willing to work through this or we're not. But I won't spend the next year in limbo while you figure out if I'm worth choosing. That's not fair, isn't it? You've been emotionally involved with another woman for months. You told your friends you'd marry me if I were prettier. You're terrified of the life we planned together. What exactly are we postponing for? So you can date Maria and see if the grass is actually greener? I don't want to date Maria. But you don't want to marry me either. The silence stretched between us. Finally, Dominic spoke. You're right. You deserve someone who's sure, who looks at you and sees their future without any doubts. And you deserve someone who makes you feel alive, I said, tears finally coming. Someone who makes you want to be spontaneous and take risks. So we're really doing this? We're ending it? I looked at my engagement ring, the one he'd saved for 6 months to buy. I think we already did. We just didn't want to admit it. That was 3 months ago. The wedding that was supposed to happen next weekend isn't happening. Instead, I'm sitting in my new apartment, yes, mine alone, packing for a different kind of trip. The dissolution of 5 years happened faster than I expected. We divided our things with surprising civility. He took the gaming console and the good coffee maker. I kept the couch and the art. We split the wedding deposits we could get back and absorbed the losses on the rest. The hardest part was telling everyone, our families, our friends, the 150 people who'd already received invitations. I'm so sorry, became my catchphrase. We realized we wanted different things, Sandra cried. Tom said he understood but looked disappointed. Julia flew back from New York and spent a weekend helping me move, never once saying I told you so, even though she'd seen it coming. My parents were devastated, then furious, then supportive in that aggressive way parents can be. My mom kept offering to set me up with her Pilates instructor's son. My dad muttered about always knowing Dominic wasn't good enough. Rachel was my rock. She came over with wine and ice cream and let me ugly cry on her couch. She helped me cancel vendors and return gifts. She even went with me to sell the wedding dress, a beautiful A-line that I'd never get to wear. The surprising thing? After the initial devastation, I felt free, like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. I started saying yes to things I'd always put off. I took that painting class I'd been talking about for years. I went to therapy. I cut my hair short, something Dominic had always discouraged. I ran into Paul last month at a grocery store. He looked uncomfortable, started to walk away, but I called out to him. How is he? I asked. He's working through stuff. Seeing a therapist too, actually. And Maria? She transferred to Seattle. Nothing happened. I know. Paul shifted awkwardly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I wasn't a good friend to your relationship. I projected my own shit onto Dominic. My divorces messed me up, and I think I wanted company in my misery. We all played our parts, I said, and meant it. He misses you. He knows he screwed up, maybe. But missing someone isn't the same as being right for them. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter. Actual mail, not a text or email. Dominic's handwriting on the envelope made my heart skip, but not in the way it used to. Amelia, I've started this letter 100 times. My therapist says writing helps process emotions, even if you never send the letter. But I need to send this one. I'm sorry, not just for how things ended, but for how I let them deteriorate. You deserved a partner who was all in, not someone with one foot out the door. You deserved honesty, not the coward's path I took. I've been thinking about what you said, that we stayed together because we'd always been together. You were right. I loved you, but I also loved the idea of us, the comfort of us, the safety of us. And when that safety started feeling like suffocation, instead of talking to you about it, I looked for an escape route. Maria wasn't real. She was a projection of all my fears about growing up, settling down, becoming my parents. The funny thing is, now that I have all this freedom I thought I wanted, I mostly just miss Sunday mornings with you, making pancakes and doing the crossword. I'm not writing to ask for another chance. I know that ship has sailed. I just wanted you to know that you weren't the problem. You were never the problem. You were the best thing in my life, and I was too scared and stupid to see it until it was gone. I hope you're happy. I hope you're living spontaneously and taking risks and surprising yourself every day. I hope you find someone who sees you and chooses you without hesitation. You deserve the world, Amelia. I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you. Love always, Dominic. I read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it in a box with other remnants of us, photos, ticket stubs, the ring. Not because I'm holding on, but because 5 years deserves to be remembered, even if it didn't end in forever. Tomorrow, I leave for Greece. The honeymoon that isn't a honeymoon anymore, just a trip for one. I kept the booking because the cancellation fees were astronomical, but also because I needed this. 2 weeks of Greek islands, of being completely alone with myself, of figuring out who Amelia is when she's not part of Amelia and Dominic. My suitcase is open on my bed, summer dresses and sandals waiting to be packed. I bought new clothes for this trip, bright colors and bold patterns, things I never would have worn before, things that make me feel alive. My phone buzzes. It's Julia. Have an amazing time in Greece. Send pictures. And remember, the best revenge is a life well lived. She's right. But it's not about revenge anymore. It's about redemption. It's about recognizing that sometimes love isn't enough, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go. I think about Dominic sometimes. Wonder if he's found what he was looking for. I hope he has. I hope Maria was right and he figures out who he really is when he's not trying to be what everyone expects. But mostly I think about myself, about the woman I'm becoming without him. She's braver than I expected, stronger too. She signs up for solo travel and speaks up in meetings and doesn't apologize for taking up space. She's learning that being alone isn't the same as being lonely, that a broken engagement isn't a failure but a course correction. The wedding dress I sold? Another bride bought it last week. The shop owner texted me a photo. She looked radiant. Sure, ready. Everything I wasn't 3 months ago. And instead of feeling sad, I felt grateful. Grateful that dress will get its moment, just not with me. Grateful that I had the courage to walk away from a future that wasn't right, even if it looked perfect on paper. Tomorrow I fly to Athens. No fiancé, no 5-year plan, no idea what comes next. Just me, the Mediterranean, and the possibility that the best love story might be the one I write with myself. And for the first time in months, maybe years, that feels like enough. More than enough. It feels like everything.